So I mentioned this before in the Mewtwo's full story background, so I figured I'd kind of explain a little bit more on it. I kind of left this out a little bit, but you could kind of predict it if you paid it close attention. You basically would know that Dr. Fuji, the one that you find at Lavender Town's top of its Pokemon Tower, basically was the one that was he was really good friends with Blaine and the Silph chief over at Saffron City. So him and Giovanni, he was trying to find him too, but he was basically going after all three of those guys because they were all caught up in the creation of Mewtwo at some point, and Giovanni being just the corrupt individual. So Giovanni, like according to a lot of prototype data, and I've said this before, Mewtwo is found in the Cerulean City gym, the cave that's next to this Cerulean City gym, right where Misty's at. However, you need to beat the Elite Four in order to get there, though. So, but that was never always the case, though. Mewtwo was actually supposed to be a random encounter on after a boss rush somewhere in the back room of they call it a Silph League, and it's really interesting because it would make perfect sense. Mewtwo's running around destroying things, and nobody wants to go in there and challenge Mewtwo. Nobody wants to go in there and tame this the savage Pokemon that was created. So of course, you got all these random Pokemon that are in there too, and it's like Mewtwo wasn't supposed to be a stationary legendary, where like you just go up to it, save in front of it, interact. You would have to go to the floor that it's on, and then there's like a 1% chance you would encounter it somewhere on that floor, and then you'd fight it. And I don't think it would run away. It would fight you to it till it either dies or you catch it. But it's really interesting how they created that concept, because there's tons of like wild Pokemon that are in there, and some of them are just either challenging or hanging out with Mewtwo, like Magneton's just flying back and forth, or Snorlax is just sitting in the corner, and it's really interesting actually. Like a lot of the Pokemon that were encountered on that floor, from what I understand, were actually supposed to be also Pokemon that were encountered in the unknown dungeon on the last floor where you find Mewtwo. So, but it's really interesting though, because like again, Moltres was originally supposed to be in where Mewtwo was in Celadon, not Celadon, Cerulean City, right in that area, the cave. So it's interesting to think that I really think that we should have more random encounter Pokemon that are like that. Like, I mean, build up a backstory. Like, here's this legendary Pokemon, and here's like these companies that are interested in taking it for themselves. Again, like Giovanni, for example. And then like you go on this adventure, and then eventually you run into some more surprises along the way. But then eventually you earn that right to go catch it, and then you're in the room where it's at, but you don't know where it's at. It could be anywhere in there. So it's like the element of surprise. The adventure continues, and again, that's like what we like to call Pokemon magic. You're traveling through an adventure, trying to figure things out. It's really cool actually. I really do love the way they wrote the series for what it really is, all intents and purposes aside. Pokemon's a great trilogy. I mean, even if there are loopholes with it, but I'm still glad Satoshi Tajiri did decide to still roll around with it and take those odds, because why not, right? I mean, if you're gonna be remembered for something, you might as well do something you love, right? Especially if you can succeed at it. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, so we have a lot of prototype maps that are still being leaked on the internet, and we're still analyzing them. But again, it's like Satoshi Tajiri did say that most of the ideas they did have were eventually turned into what they wanted it to be. Although some stuff was moved around, and we're still trying to figure that out, exactly what is moved around. But again, you just figure it out by asking questions and trying to answer them the most accurate way you can. Like Mewtwo was still a savage Pokemon created in a Cinnabar Island lab, but its location was moved around a little bit. Moltres was in Victory Road in the final version of the game. However, that was not always the case. It had its own dungeon. And if you actually play Fire Red and Leaf Green, like once you get to the summit of Mount Ember, like the puzzle for it was actually the same as it was supposed to be in the room where you go catch Moltres underground cerulean cave in the, like, it's probably near like some sort of like Earth's core where it's like the temperature gets really hot and everything. So Moltres is hanging out in there because it's obviously a fire type, so hanging out in a really heated location. I also think it's funny because the last 2 times I played, I went in that cave, I encountered Magmar 2 times in a row. And if you don't know, Magmar is like a really, really hard Pokemon to find. It's got like, it's on like the same encounter rate as what was it? Electabuzz and Scyther, and if Jinx was a wild Pokemon, you know, aside from you trading it, you know, it's hilarious. It's just really interesting how they did that, but you never know. It's really cool though, you know, like more kind of makes me wonder how many other ideas they scrapped and how many stories were really changed in the trilogy. Like what do we still know? Like wild Pokemon, like granted they are supposed to be like really hard to find, but at the same time they're really really hard to catch too, hence the really low catch rates and whatnot. So again, yeah, I'll update you when I find more information, but as of right now, this is just something to think about. If you're someone who's making a ROM hack, you know, here's a really good idea. You know, have random encounter legendaries like in a certain area. That'd be pretty cool. Kind of like Roman legendaries, but like in a certain area though.